Ranch cook found a girl tied to the fence. She said, "I'm the one Mama hid from you." Ruby May's boots crunch through frost-brittle grass, the sound cutting sharp against dawn silence. Her breath steams in the cold air as she carries her thermos of black coffee toward the stock fence. Same route she's walked every morning for 12 years since her husband died. Same time, same purpose, same solitude that keeps her sane in a county where sanity runs thin as creek water in August. The fence line stretches across the valley like a scar, barbed wire glinting silver in the early light. She knows every post, every sag, every place where the wire needs tightening. This land talks to her in ways people never could. Tells her when storms are coming, when the well needs attention, when something doesn't belong. Today, something doesn't belong. She stops 30 yards out, squinting through the dim light. There's a shape caught against the wire, dark and wrong. At first she thinks it's a deer, maybe caught trying to jump the fence and bleeding out slow. Wouldn't be the first time, but deer don't wear clothes. Ruby May moves closer, her pulse picking up speed. The shape takes form, becomes human. A girl, maybe 17 or 18, tied to the barbed wire with what looks like baling twine. Her wrists are torn and bleeding where she's fought against the restraints. Her clothes are torn too, dirty denim and a white shirt gone gray with grime. "Jesus Christ," Ruby May whispers. The girl's head snaps up. Her eyes are wild, fever bright in the pale light. There's something in them that makes Ruby May's skin crawl. Not just fear or pain, but something deeper. Something that looks like rage mixed with a kind of terrible recognition. "You Ruby May Caldwell." The question hits Ruby May like a slap. The girl's voice is hoarse, probably from screaming, but there's steel underneath. No begging, no pleading for help. Just that direct question. Like she's been waiting. "Who's asking?" Ruby May's hand drifts toward the knife on her belt. Could be a trap. Could be bait. In this county, you learn to assume the worst about strangers, especially ones who know your name. The girl tries to shift position against the wire, winces when the barbs dig deeper. Blood runs fresh down her arms, dripping onto the hard ground, but she doesn't look away from Ruby May's face. "You don't recognize me, do you?" "Should I?" "Maybe. Maybe not." "Mama said you might not." Ruby May feels something cold settle in her stomach. "What, Mama? Who are you?" The girl's mouth twists into something that might be a smile if it weren't so bitter. "You really don't know." "I really don't know. So why don't you tell me before I decide to walk away and pretend I never saw you?" "Because you won't walk away." "Try me." "You won't walk away because you're just like her. Just like Mama. Can't leave something hurt and broken to die." Even when you should, Ruby May takes a step closer. The girl doesn't look like anyone she knows, but there's something familiar in the shape of her face, the stubborn set of her jaw, something that makes her chest tight with a feeling she can't name. "What's your name?" "Lily." The thermos slips from Ruby May's fingers before she can stop it. It hits the ground with a dull thunk, coffee spilling dark across the frost. The smell rises bitter in the cold air. "That's not possible." "Is it?" "Lily's dead. Lily died 20 years ago. I was there when they found the bones." "Were you there when they burned the house?" Ruby May's knees go weak. She grabs the fence post for support, feeling the rough wood bite into her palm. "How do you know about that?" "I know lots of things. I know about the scar on your shoulder from when you fell off the roof trying to fix the shingles. I know about the time you broke Mama's favorite plate and blamed it on the cat. I know about the letters you used to write to that boy in town, the ones you never sent." "Stop." "I know about the night you found me crying in the root cellar because I was scared of the thunder." "Stop it." "I know about the lullaby Mama used to sing, the one about the mockingbird." Ruby May's vision blurs. Her hands shake as she reaches for the wire cutters on her belt. "You can't be her. You can't be Lily." "Why not?" "Because Lily would be 37 years old. You're just a kid." "Am I?" Ruby May looks at the girl's face again, really looks this time. The bone structure, the shape of her eyes, the way her hair falls across her forehead. It's impossible, but the resemblance is there. Stronger than a resemblance, more like looking in a mirror that shows the past. How is this possible? "I'm the one Mama hid from you." The words hang in the air between them like smoke. Ruby May's thermos lies forgotten on the ground, coffee still steaming in the cold. The barbed wire glints silver and red with blood, and, somewhere in the distance, a mockingbird starts to sing. Ruby May's hands shake as she cuts the first strand of wire. We need to get you to a hospital. No hospitals. You're bleeding. I've been bleeding for 20 years. The wire parts with a sharp snap. Ruby May moves to the next strand, trying to make sense of what she's seeing, what she's hearing. Trying to make sense of a world where the dead can come back and tie themselves to fences like offerings to ghosts. Who did this to you? Someone who wanted you to find me. Why? Lily's eyes meet hers, and in them, Ruby May sees 20 years of pain, 20 years of secrets, 20 years of questions that never got answered, because it's time for the truth. Ruby May's wire cutters bite through the last strand, holding Lily to the fence. The girl slumps forward, blood running fresh from her wrists where the barbs cut deep. Ruby May catches her before she can fall, feeling how light she is, how fragile, like holding a bird with broken wings. Easy now, I've got you. Do you? The question catches Ruby May off guard. There's something in Lily's voice that doesn't match her apparent age, something old and knowing that makes Ruby May's skin crawl. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Everything. Depends on how much you remember. Ruby May helps Lily to her feet, noting how the girl moves with careful precision despite her injuries. No stumbling, no weakness. Just controlled movement like someone who's learned to hide pain. Start talking. How do you know my name? How do you know about things that happened in this family? Because I am this family. That's impossible. Is it? Tell me what's impossible about it. Ruby May strips off her work jacket and wraps it around Lily's shoulders. The girl is shivering now, but her eyes never leave Ruby May's face. Those eyes are the worst part. They're familiar in a way that makes Ruby May's chest tight with recognition she doesn't want to accept. Lily Caldwell died 20 years ago. There was a fire. They found bones. Whose bones? Hers. Yours. I don't know. The fire was too hot. Everything was burned. Everything except me. Ruby May takes a step back. You're not making sense. When did anything in this county ever make sense? When did Sheriff Hartwell ever tell the truth about anything? When did Mama ever tell you the whole story about anything? The mention of their mother hits Ruby May like a physical blow. Don't you dare talk about her. Why not? She was my mama too. She was not your mama. Your mama died giving birth to a stillborn baby girl 20 years ago. I was there. I held her hand. You held her hand while she lied to you. Ruby May's vision blurs with sudden tears. Stop it. She never told you about the letters, did she? The ones that came every month from the county seat. The ones she burned in the kitchen stove after she read them. How could you possibly know about letters? Because I wrote them. The words hang in the cold air between them. Ruby May looks at this girl who claims to be her dead sister, this impossible thing that knows family secrets no stranger could know. The resemblance is undeniable now that she's looking for it. The shape of the nose, the stubborn chin, the way she tilts her head when she's thinking. What was Mama's maiden name? Sutherland, Margaret Rose Sutherland before she married Daddy. Ruby May's knees go weak. Anyone could find that out. It's public record. What about the scar on your shoulder, the one shaped like a crescent moon? Ruby May's hand moves instinctively to her shoulder, where under her shirt lies the pale scar she's carried since childhood. Lucky guess. You got it when you were 8 years old. You were trying to reach the cookie jar on top of the icebox, and you fell. Caught your shoulder on the corner of the counter. Mama stitched it up herself because Daddy said doctors cost too much money. Stop. She sang to you while she did it. That song about the Red River Valley. You cried until she promised to make molasses cookies. Ruby May's hands shake as she stares at this girl who shouldn't exist, who knows things that died with their mother 5 years ago. Where's the old root cellar? 50 yards behind the house, under the big oak tree. You have to move the metal wash basin to find the door. It's painted green, but the paint's all peeled off now. There's a wooden ladder with 13 steps. I counted them every time I went down there. Jesus Christ. He's got nothing to do with this. Ruby May runs her hands through her hair, trying to make sense of what she's hearing. Even if you are who you say you are, you're 17 years old. Lily would be 37 now. She'd be older than me. Would she? Yes, she would. That's how time works. Not always. Ruby May looks at Lily's face in the growing daylight. The skin is smooth, unmarked by years or weather. The eyes are bright and clear. The hair falls in the same dark waves Ruby May remembers from childhood photographs. It's impossible, but the evidence is right in front of her. Mama told you I died in the fire. You did die. I saw the bones. Those weren't mine. The simple statement hits Ruby May like a hammer blow. Then whose were they? Does it matter? Someone died so you'd stop looking for me. Why would someone do that? Because someone wanted me to disappear. Someone with enough power to make bones appear and make families believe lies. Ruby May thinks about Sheriff Hartwell, about the way he handled the investigation 20 years ago. How quickly he declared the case closed, how he discouraged questions and pushed for a fast burial. Who's been keeping you all these years? Someone who needed leverage against Mama. What kind of leverage? The kind that keeps mothers quiet about things they shouldn't see. Ruby May feels the ground shifting under her feet. Everything she thought she knew about her family, about the past 20 years, starts to crumble. What things? Things that happen to girls who get too curious. Things that happen to women who ask too many questions. I don't understand. You will. Ruby May looks toward the ranch house, sitting quiet in the morning light. The same house where she grew up, where her mother lived and died keeping secrets, where Ruby May has spent 12 years alone, thinking she was the only Caldwell left. We need to get you inside, clean those cuts, get you some food. Will you believe me then? I don't know what to believe anymore. That's a start. Ruby May helps Lily walk toward the house, feeling the weight of questions that have no good answers. The girl leans against her, and Ruby May can feel how real she is, how solid. Ghosts don't bleed, but this girl is bleeding. Ghosts don't know family secrets, but this girl knows everything. What happened to you, Lily? Where have you been? Closer than you think. Farther than you can imagine. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now. They reach the porch steps, and Ruby May stops. Once she brings this girl inside, once she accepts the possibility that her sister is alive, everything changes. The life she's built, the peace she's found, the simple certainty of being alone. Are you really her? Lily looks up at her with eyes that hold 20 years of pain and something else, something that looks like hope. I'm whoever you need me to be. The question is, who do you need me to be? Ruby May opens the kitchen door, and they step inside together, leaving the morning cold behind them. The kitchen feels smaller, with 2 people in it. Ruby May hasn't had company in months, and the space seems to shrink around them as she guides Lily to the wooden table by the window. Morning light streams through faded curtains, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air like tiny ghosts. Sit down. Let me look at those cuts. Lily settles into the chair with careful movements, like someone who's learned to expect pain from every position. Ruby May fills a basin with warm water from the stove, adds a splash of whiskey from the bottle she keeps for emergencies. The smell fills the small space, sharp and medicinal. This is going to sting. Everything stings. Ruby May dampens a clean cloth and begins cleaning the wounds on Lily's wrists. The cuts are deep but precise, made by someone who knew exactly how much damage to inflict without causing permanent harm. The kind of wounds that hurt but heal, that leave scars but don't kill. Who did this to you? You know who. I don't know anything anymore. Sheriff Hartwell. The name hangs in the air between them like smoke from a fire that won't die. Ruby May's hand still on the cloth. She's known Floyd Hartwell her entire life. He was a deputy when she was a child, became sheriff when she was in high school. He came to their mother's funeral, stood by the grave with his hat in his hands, told Ruby May he was sorry for her loss. That's impossible. Is it? When has Sheriff Hartwell ever been interested in justice? When has he ever solved a case that mattered? When has he ever protected anyone who couldn't protect themselves? Ruby May thinks about the missing girls over the years, the ones who disappeared from truck stops and trailer parks, the ones whose cases went cold before they even went warm. She thinks about how Sheriff Hartwell always had explanations that ended conversations instead of starting investigations. Why would he keep you? What would be the point? Leverage. Against who? Mama. Ruby May drops the cloth into the basin. The water turns pink with blood. What kind of leverage? The kind that keeps a woman quiet about things she shouldn't have seen. What things? Lily's eyes meet hers across the table. In the morning light, Ruby May can see more details she missed before. The way Lily's left hand trembles slightly, a permanent shake that speaks of old injuries. The small scar above her right eyebrow. The careful way she holds her shoulders like someone protecting broken ribs that never healed right. Things that happen to girls who don't have families to miss them. Things that happen to women who ask the wrong questions. Things that happen when men with badges decide they can take whatever they want. Ruby May feels something cold settle in her stomach. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about a system. Sheriff Hartwell isn't working alone. Never has been. There's a whole network of men who've been using their positions to hurt people for decades. Mama found out about it. How? She was working at the diner when it happened. She was closing up late one night and saw Sheriff Hartwell and two other men bringing a girl through the back alley. The girl was fighting, screaming. Mama tried to call for help, but they saw her. Ruby May remembers her mother working at the diner, remembers how she came home quiet some nights, how she'd sit at this same table staring out of the window like she was seeing ghosts. What happened to the girl? Same thing that happens to all of them. They disappear. Sometimes they find bones later. Sometimes they don't. Depends on how careful the men are feeling. And Mama? Mama was supposed to disappear too. Would have, except Sheriff Hartwell had a better idea. Lily pushes up the sleeves of Ruby May's jacket, revealing more scars. These are older, faded with time, but still visible. Cigarette burns on her forearms, long, thin lines that could only come from a blade, the kind of systematic marking that happens over years, not minutes. He took me instead. Told Mama he'd keep me alive as long as she kept quiet, as long as she never told anyone what she saw that night. Ruby May's hands shake as she reaches for the whiskey bottle. She pours herself a shot, drinks it down fast, feeling the burn all the way to her stomach. Why didn't she tell me? Because you would have done exactly what you're thinking right now. What am I thinking? Kill him. The words hit Ruby May like a physical blow because they're true. She is thinking about killing Sheriff Hartwell. She's thinking about walking into his office with her husband's shotgun and ending this conversation permanently. So she let you suffer instead. She chose to keep you safe. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Ruby May thinks about her mother's weekly trips to town. Every Sunday after church, she'd drive to the cemetery and spend hours tending graves. She always said she was visiting her parents. But Ruby May never understood why it took so long, why she always came home looking drained and hollow. She wasn't tending graves, was she? No, she was visiting you. Every week for 20 years. Brought me food, books, news about you. Brought me hope when I didn't have any left. Where? Sheriff Hartwell's basement. He's got a room down there that doesn't officially exist. Soundproof walls, multiple locks, no windows. No way out unless someone lets you out. Ruby May feels the room spinning around her. Her mother knew Lily was alive, knew she was being held, tortured, used as a bargaining chip to ensure silence. And she chose to keep that secret, chose to let Ruby May build a life on the lie of Lily's death. How did you get out? I didn't. He let me out. Why? Because Mama's dead now. The leverage doesn't work anymore. He needs a new kind of leverage. What kind? You. The word hits Ruby May like a gunshot. She understands now why Lily was tied to the fence where Ruby May would find her. Why she was left bleeding but alive. Why Sheriff Hartwell let her escape after 20 years of captivity. He wants me to come for him. He's counting on it. Expects you to storm into his office with guns blazing, making threats, breaking laws. Gives him every excuse he needs to eliminate both of us legally. So what do? We don't play his game. Then what game do we play? Lily's smile is sharp as broken glass. Our own. Ruby May looks at her sister, this impossible girl who's lived through 20 years of hell and somehow survived, who's been broken and rebuilt so many times she's become something new, something harder than what she was before. How many other girls? Over the years, dozens, maybe more. They bring them through this county like it's a highway. Some they keep, some they sell, some they kill. Depends on what they need. And nobody knows? People know. They just don't talk. Fear keeps people quiet. Fear and money and the understanding that asking questions gets you disappeared. Ruby May stands up, walks to the window, looks out at the land she's called home her entire life. The same hills and valleys her family has worked for generations. The same soil where her parents are buried, where she thought her sister was buried too. Mama died knowing you were alive. She died knowing you were safe. That's not the same thing. It was to her. Ruby May turns back to face Lily, seeing her clearly for the first time, not as the girl who disappeared 20 years ago, but as the woman who survived 20 years of captivity and came back to finish what their mother started. What do you need from me? Everything. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I've got. Outside, a truck engine rumbles in the distance, coming closer. Ruby May moves to the window, sees the familiar outline of a sheriff's department vehicle turning up her long driveway. He's coming. I know. How do you know? Because this is how it always starts. He lets me think I'm free, then he comes to bring me home. Ruby May's hand moves to the rifle mounted above the kitchen door. Not this time. No, not this time. The truck engine grows louder, then stops. Ruby May hears a car door slam, boots on gravel. She moves away from the window, motioning for Lily to stay quiet. They wait in silence as footsteps approach the front porch, then stop. Ruby May, you in there? Sheriff Hartwell's voice carries through the thin walls. Friendly, casual, like he's stopping by for coffee and conversation. Ruby May knows that tone. She's heard it at town meetings. At her mother's funeral, at the diner when he was trying to charm information out of people who didn't know better. I saw your thermos by the fence. Figured you might be having morning troubles. You need any help out there? Lily grabs Ruby May's wrist, shakes her head. Her eyes are wide with something between fear and rage. 20 years of conditioning, 20 years of learning that Sheriff Hartwell's voice means pain. They wait. The footsteps move around the porch, testing windows, checking the back door. Sheriff Hartwell isn't giving up easy. He knows something's changed, knows his carefully constructed game has new players. I'll be back later, Ruby May. Make sure you're here when I come calling. The truck engine starts again. Gravel crunches under tires and the sound fades into the distance. Ruby May counts to 50 before she speaks. How long before he comes back? Not long. He's probably just going to get more men. Then we need to move fast. We need to go to the cellar. Why? Because that's where Mama hid everything. They slip out the back door, moving quickly across the yard toward the big oak tree that stood behind the house for longer than anyone can remember. Lily moves with purpose, like she's walked this path before. She kneels beside the old metal wash basin that Ruby May always assumed was just abandoned junk, pushes it aside to reveal a wooden door set into the ground. Help me with this. Together, they lift the heavy door, revealing wooden steps that disappear into darkness below. The smell that rises from the cellar is musty and old, mixed with something else, something that smells like fear and secrets. How did you know about this? Mama brought me here when I was little, before everything went wrong. She said it was our secret place. I never knew about it. She had lots of secrets. They climbed down 13 wooden steps into a space that's bigger than Ruby May expected. The root cellar extends under part of the house carved out of red clay and shored up with timber that's gone gray with age. Mason jars line the walls, filled with preserves that look older than Ruby May can remember. But it's not the jars that catch her attention. It's the wooden crate sitting in the corner, covered with a tarp that's been kept clean and dry despite the damp air. Is that it? That's it. Lily pulls the tarp away, revealing a collection of items that don't belong in a root cellar. Journals bound in black leather, manila folders thick with documents, photographs, letters tied with string. The accumulated evidence of someone who spent years documenting things that were supposed to stay hidden. Ruby May opens the first journal, recognizes her mother's careful handwriting on the first page. The date is from 22 years ago. Before Lily disappeared, before everything changed. October 15th. Saw them again tonight. 3 men, 2 I recognized. Sheriff Hartwell and Mayor Groves. Third man was driving a truck with county plates but no insignia. They had a girl with them. Couldn't have been more than 16. She was fighting, but they had her hands tied. They went into the back of the old courthouse, the entrance that's supposed to be sealed up. Ruby May flips through more pages, reading entries that make her stomach turn. Dates, times, descriptions of men she's known her entire life, engaged in activities that should have put them in prison decades ago. How long did she watch them? 2 years before they caught her. And then they made the deal. Ruby May finds an entry dated 3 weeks before Lily's supposed death. Her mother's handwriting is shaky here, desperate. They know I've been watching. Sheriff Hartwell came to the house today while Ruby May was at school, said he had a proposition for me, said I could choose which daughter I wanted to keep. I told him I didn't understand what he meant. He said I understood perfectly. The next entry is dated the day after the fire. Lily is gone. They took her last night, made it look like she died in the fire, used bones from somewhere else, probably one of the girls who really died. Sheriff Hartwell says I can see her once a week if I keep quiet about what I know. Says if I ever tell anyone, if I ever try to contact the state police or the FBI, she'll disappear for real. Says he'll make sure I watch it happen. Ruby May's hands shake as she turns the page. She made a deal, my life for your freedom. That's not a deal, that's sacrifice. Same thing, in the end. Ruby May continues reading, finding entries that span 20 years of weekly visits. 20 years of watching her daughter being held prisoner while pretending everything was normal. The journals document a trafficking network that reaches from the county sheriff all the way to the state capitol, involving judges, mayors, businessmen, and politicians. Look at this. Lily hands Ruby May a manila folder filled with newspaper clippings, missing women from across 3 counties, all within the last 20 years. But as Ruby May reads through them, she realizes something horrible. These women weren't missing. No, they were murdered. And then their deaths were staged to look like accidents or suicides. Car crashes, overdoses, drownings, anything that would keep people from asking too many questions. Ruby May finds photographs in the bottom of the crate, pictures that should never exist, showing things that should never happen, men in positions of authority doing things that strip away any faith in justice, any belief in protection, any hope that the system works for people instead of against them. How many? Dozens. Maybe more. The network goes back generations. Fathers teaching sons, passing down territory like it's a family business. And nobody ever stopped them. Who is going to stop them? They are the law. They are the judges. They are the people who decide what gets investigated and what gets buried. Ruby May thinks about all the times she trusted Sheriff Hartwell, all the times she thought he was protecting the community, all the time she voted for men who promised safety while creating the very dangers they claimed to fight. Mama documented everything. For 20 years, every name, every date, every crime she could verify, she was building a case. Against who? Against all of them. Ruby May finds a letter in her mother's handwriting, addressed to the FBI field office in the state capitol. It's dated 6 months before her mother died. But it was never sent. Why didn't she mail this? Because they were watching her. Phone tapped, mail checked, every move monitored. She knew that sending that letter would be signing both our death warrants. So she just kept watching. She kept documenting, kept hoping someone would eventually believe her, kept hoping justice would find a way. But it never did. No, it never did. Ruby May closes the journal, looks around the cellar at 20 years of accumulated evidence. Her mother's life work, hidden in the dark, waiting for someone to find it and finish what she started. What happens now? Now we decide what kind of women we want to be. What do you mean? Do we want to be the kind who keeps secrets to stay safe? Or do we want to be the kind who burn everything down to set things right? Ruby May thinks about her mother, spending 20 years in silence while her daughter suffered. Thinks about all the other women who disappeared, who died, who were forgotten because silence was easier than justice. I know what kind of woman I want to be. What kind? The kind Mama raised me to be, before fear made her forget who she was. And what kind is that? The kind who doesn't make deals with devils. Lily smiles, and for the first time since Ruby May found her tied to the fence, it looks genuine. Then we better get started. Started with what? Burning it all down. Back in the kitchen, Ruby May spreads their mother's evidence across the table like pieces of a puzzle that finally makes sense. Photographs, journal entries, letters, and documents create a map of corruption that stretches across decades. Lily sits beside her, pointing out names and connections that Ruby May recognizes from her entire life in the county. Mayor Groves has been part of this since the beginning. I voted for him 3 times. Judge Patterson, too. He's the one who makes sure cases disappear before they reach trial. He married me and Tom. And Sheriff Hartwell coordinates everything, makes sure the right people stay quiet and the wrong people disappear. Ruby May stares at a photograph that shows Judge Patterson with 2 men she doesn't recognize, standing beside a truck with county plates. In the background, barely visible, is what looks like a teenage girl tied up in the truck bed. How high does this go? Higher than you want to believe. The phone rings, cutting through the quiet morning air like a knife. Ruby May looks at the old rotary phone hanging on the kitchen wall, the same phone that's been there since she was a child. The ring is loud and insistent, echoing through the thin walls of the house. Don't answer it. Wasn't planning to. But the phone keeps ringing. 15 times, 20, 25. Whoever's calling isn't giving up. Finally, it stops, leaving silence that feels heavier than the noise. That was him. Sheriff Hartwell. He knows we found the evidence, knows we're putting the pieces together. Ruby May walks to the window, peers through the curtains at the empty driveway. Nothing moves except the wind through the grass, but she can feel eyes watching from somewhere beyond the horizon, the feeling of being hunted, of time running out. We need to get this evidence somewhere safe. Where? Sheriff Hartwell controls the local law. Judge Patterson controls the courts. Who are we supposed to trust? State police. Look at the names in those journals, Ruby May. Look at how many state officials are on those lists. Ruby May flips through the pages again, seeing names she recognizes from newspapers and television. State senators, federal judges, business leaders who've built empires on the backs of women who couldn't fight back. The governor, Governor Wade. He's been taking bribes from this network for 15 years. Your mama documented every payment. The phone rings again. This time, Ruby May moves closer to it, listening to the shrill sound that seems to fill the entire house. After 20 rings, it stops. He's getting desperate. Or he's buying time. Time for what? Before Lily can answer, they hear an engine in the distance. Ruby May moves to the front window, sees Sheriff Hartwell's truck turning up the long driveway again. But this time, he's not alone. 2 more vehicles follow behind him, dark SUVs with tinted windows that don't belong to the county sheriff's department. Who are those men? Cleanup crew. What kind of cleanup? The permanent kind. Ruby May watches the vehicles park in a line across her driveway, blocking any escape route. Men get out, 6 of them total, all carrying weapons that look military rather than civilian. Sheriff Hartwell steps out of his truck, speaks briefly with the other men, then walks toward the house. The phone rings again. Answer it. What? Answer it. Let's hear what he has to say. Ruby May lifts the receiver, holds it to her ear without speaking. Ruby May, I know you're there. Sheriff Hartwell's voice sounds different now. Less friendly, more businesslike. The mask is coming off. I've got some men here who need to have a conversation with you and your guest. Why don't you come on out so we can settle this peaceful-like? Ruby May looks at Lily, who shakes her head. I don't think so, Sheriff. Now, Ruby May, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You've got something that belongs to me, and I mean to have it back. You mean someone, not something. Same difference. Not to me. There's a pause, then the sound of Sheriff Hartwell covering the phone with his hand. Ruby May can hear muffled voices, other men talking in the background. When he comes back on the line, his tone has changed again. I've got Governor Wade on the other line, Ruby May. He's very interested in your situation. Ruby May feels her blood turn cold. The corruption goes all the way to the state capitol, just like Lily said. There's no law enforcement to call, no higher authority to appeal to. They're completely on their own. Put him on. Ruby May, this is Governor Wade. I understand you're having some difficulties with a troubled young woman who's been making wild accusations about upstanding members of your community. The governor's voice is smooth, practiced, the kind of voice that wins elections and makes people believe lies sound like truth. Is that what you call 20 years of imprisonment and torture, wild accusations? I call it the delusions of a mentally unstable individual who needs professional help. Sheriff Hartwell is prepared to ensure she gets the treatment she needs. And what kind of treatment is that? The kind that helps people forget traumatic fantasies and focus on building a healthy future. Ruby May understands now. They're not here to arrest Lily or take her back to the basement. They're here to eliminate both of them, make it look like a tragic accident or a murder-suicide, clean up loose ends before the evidence can surface. They're coming tonight. Lily nods. Already moving toward the back of the house. Let them come. Ruby May, you don't understand. I understand plenty. They took 20 years from you. They took our mother's peace. They took everything. Ruby May hangs up the phone, cutting off Governor Wade's smooth voice mid-sentence. She turns to Lily, feeling something hard and cold settling in her chest. Something that feels like her mother's determination mixed with her father's stubborn refusal to back down from a fight. How many weapons did Tom keep? Enough. Where? Barn loft, hidden under the hay bales on the north side. They move quickly through the house, gathering everything they might need. Ruby May knows this land better than anyone, knows every hill and valley, every fence line and creek bed. If Sheriff Hartwell wants a fight on her territory, she'll give him one he won't forget. In the barn, they climb to the loft and move aside bales of hay that haven't been disturbed since Tom died. Underneath, wrapped in oiled canvas, are weapons her husband accumulated over 30 years of hunting and preparing for troubles that might come. Jesus, Ruby May, how many guns did one man need? Tom always said you never know when the government might turn against its own people. 2 rifles, a shotgun, 3 handguns, and boxes of ammunition for all of them. Tom had been paranoid about federal overreach, but Ruby May realizes now that he was worried about the wrong level of government. Can you shoot? 20 years in Sheriff Hartwell's basement, you learn all kinds of skills. They load the weapons, check the ammunition, plan their defensive positions using the ranch's layout. The house sits in a natural depression surrounded by small hills that provide cover, but also potential ambush points. The barn offers a good view of the approach road, but it's also exposed to fire from multiple directions. They'll come after dark. How do you know? Because that's how they always do it. Makes it easier to clean up afterward, easier to control the narrative. Ruby May thinks about her neighbors, about the people in town who'll read about this in the newspaper tomorrow. They'll believe whatever story Sheriff Hartwell tells them, whatever lies Governor Wade's people craft to explain away 2 more dead women. What about the evidence? All of Mama's work? We make copies, hide them in different places, make sure some of it survives, even if we don't. You think we won't survive? Lily looks out through the barn window at the men positioning themselves around the property, at the professional way they move and communicate. I think we're going to make them pay for every inch of ground they take. That's not the same as surviving. No. But it's better than dying quiet. Ruby May loads shells into the shotgun, feeling the weight of the weapon in her hands. She's hunted with this gun, used it to put food on the table and protect livestock from predators. Tonight, she'll use it to protect something more important. Tom always said this land was worth fighting for. Is it? It is now. Outside, the sun begins to set, painting the sky the color of blood and fire. Sheriff Hartwell's men take their positions, professional and patient. They know how this works, know how these situations usually end. But they don't know Ruby May Caldwell. Don't know what 20 years of grief and anger can do to a woman who finally has someone to fight for. Don't know that some people would rather burn everything down than let evil win. They're moving. Let them move. Ruby May checks the sight on her rifle, feels the familiar weight of the weapon against her shoulder. In the distance, she can see muzzle flashes beginning to blink in the growing darkness. The siege has begun. Night settles over the ranch like a heavy blanket, bringing with it the kind of darkness that makes secrets easier to tell. Ruby May and Lily sit in the kitchen with the lights off, their mother's journals spread between them on the table. Outside, they can hear the distant sound of engines idling, men positioning themselves for whatever comes next. Tell me about the basement. Lily's hand still on the photographs she's been sorting. You don't want to hear about that. Yes, I do. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. Ruby May reaches across the table, covers Lily's hand with her own. I need to hear it. I need to understand what she chose, what she sacrificed. Lily looks out the window at the darkness beyond, as if she can see through 20 years of time to the girl she used to be. It was small, maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. Concrete walls, concrete floor, one light bulb hanging from the ceiling that he controlled from upstairs. How long were you down there at first? Months. Maybe a year. Time stops meaning anything when you can't see the sun. Ruby May tries to imagine her 17-year-old sister locked in darkness, learning to live without hope. The image makes her chest tight with rage she can barely contain. What did he want from you? At first, just silence. He'd come down every few days, make sure I understood the rules. Make sure I knew what would happen to you if I ever tried to escape or tell anyone what I'd seen. What had you seen? Same thing Mama saw. Sheriff Hartwell and his men bringing girls through the county, using them, selling them, disposing of them when they were done. Ruby May thinks about the missing girls over the years, the ones whose faces appeared on milk cartons and disappeared from conversations. How many? I stopped counting after the first dozen. Easier that way. And he made you watch. Sometimes. Said it was educational, said it would help me understand what happened to girls who didn't follow orders. Ruby May's hands clench into fists. The bastard. He had rules. Always rules. When I could eat, when I could sleep, when I could speak. Break a rule. Lose a privilege. Break too many rules. And he'd show me pictures of you. Pictures of you going to school, going to work, living your life. Remind me what I was protecting. I should have known, should have felt it somehow. How could you know? You were 18 years old, Ruby May. You had your own life to live. But I stopped looking. After the fire, after they found the bones, I just accepted it. Accepted that you were gone. Because that's what Mama wanted you to do. Ruby May stands up, walks to the window, stares out at the shadows that could be men or trees or memories. I dreamed about you every night for 5 years. Then what? Then I stopped dreaming. I never stopped, even when I wanted to. The words hang between them like smoke from a fire that won't die. Ruby May turns back to face her sister, seeing her clearly in the dim light from the kitchen stove. What did you dream about? You, mostly. The way you used to braid my hair before school. The way you'd ribbed me when I was scared of thunderstorms. The way you laughed when we found that baby owl in the barn. I remember that owl. You named him Hoot. Original. You were never good with names. For a moment, they're just sisters again. Not victims, not survivors. Just two women sharing memories of a childhood that ended too soon. But the moment passes, replaced by the weight of everything that happened after. He used those dreams against me. How? He described them back to me. Tell me about the life you were living while I was locked up. Your wedding, your husband's death, the way you cried at Mama's funeral. He knew everything. Ruby May feels something cold settle in her stomach. He was watching me. For 20 years, making sure you stayed safe, stayed ignorant, stayed out of the way. And if I hadn't, then you would have joined me in the basement. Or worse. Ruby May thinks about all the choices she made over the years. All the times she felt like someone was watching her. The feeling of being protected that she'd attributed to her husband's memory, to her mother's prayers. It was Sheriff Hartwell all along, keeping her safe to ensure Lily's compliance. The other women in the journals, did you know them? Some of them. They'd bring new girls through every few months. Keep them in other rooms, other basements around the county. I could hear them sometimes, crying, screaming, praying. Did you try to help them? How could I help them? I couldn't even help myself. I'm not judging you, Lily. Aren't you? No, I'm judging myself. Lily looks at her across the dark kitchen, and Ruby May can see 20 years of survivor's guilt in her sister's eyes. The weight of staying alive while others died, of being the one who lasted when so many didn't. There was a girl, maybe 2 years ago, couldn't have been more than 16. Blonde hair, blue eyes, reminded me of you when you were that age. What happened to her? She fought too hard, wouldn't break, wouldn't accept the rules. Sheriff Hartwell got tired of waiting for her to cooperate. Where is she now? Buried somewhere in the county, probably. Another missing person, another unsolved case. Ruby May closes her eyes, trying to process the magnitude of what her sister has lived through. 20 years of watching women disappear, of being powerless to stop it, of surviving when others didn't. How did you stand it? I thought about you. Every day, every night, through every horrible thing they did. I thought about you living your life, being free, being happy. It made the pain bearable. I wasn't happy. You were alive. That was enough. Not for me. It had to be, because if you weren't worth saving, then everything I endured was meaningless. Ruby May walks back to the table, sits down across from her sister. In the dim light, Lily looks exactly as she did 20 years ago, unmarked by time but marked by experience in ways that go deeper than scars. Mama used to bring me news about you, pictures sometimes when she could manage it. I watched you grow up through her stories. What did she tell you? That you were strong, that you were stubborn, that you had Daddy's temper and her sense of justice. Did she tell you she was dying? Not until the end. The last time she came to see me, she was so weak she could barely walk down the basement steps. She told me then, said she was sorry, said she'd tried to find another way. What other way? She'd been trying to contact federal authorities for years, FBI, State Attorney General, anyone who might listen. But the network reaches too high, has too many connections. Every time she got close to someone who might help, that person would suddenly lose interest or get transferred or have an accident. So she just gave up? She never gave up. She just ran out of time. Ruby May thinks about her mother's final months, the way she seemed to be preparing for something, the long conversations about family history, the insistence that Ruby May learn to take care of herself, the way she made Ruby May promise to be strong no matter what happened. She was getting ready to tell me, wasn't she? I think so. I think she was going to tell you everything and let you decide what to do with the information. But she died first. Heart attack. At least, that's what the death certificate said. You think they killed her? I think she got too close to something they couldn't let her expose. I think they decided she was more dangerous alive than dead. And you. I was supposed to disappear after the funeral. Sheriff Hartwell told me the deal was over, that there was no reason to keep me alive anymore. But you're here. Because something changed. Because keeping me alive became more valuable than killing me. What changed? You did. Before Ruby May can ask what that means, she sees headlights cutting through the darkness outside. 2 vehicles, maybe 3, moving slowly up the long driveway toward the house. The engines are quiet, running without full power, trying to approach undetected. They're here. Lily moves to the window, peers through the curtains. Right on schedule. How many? Hard to tell. At least 6 men, maybe more. Ruby May checks the rifle leaning against the kitchen counter, makes sure it's loaded and ready. You remember how to shoot? Sheriff Hartwell made sure I learned lots of useful skills over the years. The headlights stop about 100 yards from the house, far enough away to avoid being easy targets, but close enough to surround the property. Ruby May can hear car doors closing, voices calling out instructions in the darkness. Ruby May Caldwell, this is Sheriff Hartwell. I need you and your guest to come out with your hands visible. His voice carries across the night air, official and commanding. But Ruby May can hear something else underneath it, something that sounds like fear. What do? We make them come to us. And then we finish what Mama started. Sheriff Hartwell's voice cuts through the night air like a blade, amplified by the megaphone he's using to project authority he no longer deserves. Ruby May crouches by the kitchen window, rifle in hand, watching the shadows move around her property. Ruby May Caldwell, I know you can hear me. You've got something that doesn't belong to you, and I mean to have it back. The words echo across the ranch, bouncing off the barn and the hills beyond. Ruby May can see muzzle flashes positioned in a rough circle around the house. Professional spacing that speaks of military training rather than local law enforcement. You don't have to die tonight, Ruby May. Just send the girl out, and we can all go home peaceful-like. Lily moves to the opposite window, pistol ready, scanning for targets. He's lying. I know. Even if you gave me to him, he'd kill you anyway. Too much risk leaving you alive now. I wasn't planning on giving you to him. Good. Because I wasn't planning on going. Sheriff Hartwell's voice booms across the darkness again. I've got 6 good men out here, Ruby May. All of them armed, all of them trained. You can't win this fight. Ruby May counts the muzzle flashes, the shadows moving between positions. Sheriff Hartwell is right about the numbers, but he's wrong about everything else. This isn't his territory. This is hers. How many of them? 6, maybe 7. Good. I was worried it might be a fair fight. Lily looks at her sister with something that might be admiration. You've got a plan. I've got an advantage. They don't know this land like I do. Ruby May moves to the back door, rifle slung across her shoulder. She's spent 37 years walking every inch of this property, knows every hill and valley, every fence line and creek bed. Sheriff Hartwell and his men are operating in hostile territory, even if they don't realize it yet. The barn. What about it? It's full of dry hay, been there since last summer. You want to burn it? I want to level the playing field. Ruby May slips out the back door, moving low through the shadows toward the barn. The structure is old but solid, built by her grandfather with timber cut from the surrounding hills. More importantly, it's positioned between the house and the main approach road, blocking line of sight for most of Sheriff Hartwell's men. She finds the gas can Tom kept for the mower, splashes fuel across the hay bales stacked along the barn's interior walls. The smell is sharp and chemical in the cold night air, mixing with the musty scent of old hay and leather tack. A match flares in the darkness. Ruby May touches it to the fuel-soaked hay, watches flames catch and spread with hungry efficiency. The fire grows quickly, consuming dry hay that hasn't seen rain in months, climbing toward the barn's wooden rafters. "What the hell are you doing, Ruby May?" Sheriff Hartwell's voice has lost its authoritative tone, replaced by something that sounds like panic. The barn is fully engulfed now, flames reaching toward the star-filled sky, casting dancing shadows across the ranch. Ruby May moves back toward the house as smoke begins to drift across the property, thick and acrid, obscuring vision and creating cover where none existed before. She can hear Sheriff Hartwell shouting orders to his men, trying to reposition them as the tactical situation changes. "Lily, back door." Her sister appears in the doorway, rifle in hand, eyes bright with reflected firelight. That was either brilliant or insane. Both. Where to now? The creek bed. It runs along the north fence line, gives us cover and a clear field of fire. They move together through the smoke, using the barn fire as concealment while they cross open ground. Ruby May leads the way, following paths she's walked since childhood, avoiding the obvious routes that Sheriff Hartwell's men will expect them to take. The creek bed is dry this time of year, but the banks provide natural cover and elevation advantage. Ruby May positions herself behind a fallen log, rifle trained on the area between the house and the burning barn. Lily takes position 20 yards downstream, creating crossfire potential. Movement, 2 o'clock. Ruby May sees them too. 2 men moving carefully through the smoke, assault rifles ready. Night vision goggles giving them technological advantage. But technology doesn't help when you don't know the terrain. She waits until they're in the open, caught between cover points, then squeezes the trigger. The rifle's report echoes across the ranch, followed immediately by the sound of a man screaming. 1 down. The second man spins toward her position, spraying automatic fire at the muzzle flash. Bullets whine overhead, splintering wood and kicking up dirt. Ruby May rolls sideways, comes up behind different cover, but Lily's pistol cracks from downstream before Ruby May can get a second shot. Silence. 2 down. 4 to go. Sheriff Hartwell's voice cuts through the night. Closer now, maybe 50 yards from the creek bed. "You killed good men tonight, Ruby May. Men with families. So did you, for 20 years. That was business. This is murder. This is justice." Ruby May moves along the creek bed, using the smoke and shadows to mask her position. She can hear Sheriff Hartwell's remaining men trying to coordinate, their voices carrying in the still air. They're scared now, operating without their usual advantages of surprise and superior numbers. A shape moves through the smoke to her left. Ruby May brings the rifle up, but hesitates when she sees the figure clearly. It's Deputy Morrison, a young man she's known since he was in high school. His weapon is lowered, his movements uncertain. "Mrs. Caldwell, ma'am?" "Sheriff Hartwell says you've lost your mind, but I don't believe that. Can we talk about this?" Ruby May keeps the rifle trained on him but doesn't fire. "What do you know about what's been happening in this county, Jeremy?" "I know there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Sheriff Hartwell says the girl you found is dangerous, that she's been making up stories to cause trouble." What kind of stories? About being held prisoner, about people being hurt. But that's crazy, right? Sheriff Hartwell wouldn't hurt anyone. Ruby May looks at this young man who still believes in the system, who thinks badges mean protection instead of predation. Where do you think all those missing girls went, Jeremy? What missing girls? Sarah Collins, Amy Patterson, Jennifer Walsh, dozens more over the years. Where do you think they went? They ran away, or they had accidents. Sheriff Hartwell investigated all of them. Did he? Or did he just file reports and close cases? Deputy Morrison's rifle wavers slightly. I don't understand what you're asking me. I'm asking you to think, really think, about all the cases that never got solved, all the investigations that went nowhere, all the times Sheriff Hartwell told you to stop asking questions. He's my boss. He knows more about police work than I do. He knows more about covering up crimes than you do. A gunshot cracks from somewhere behind Deputy Morrison. He spins, confused, and Ruby May sees Sheriff Hartwell emerging from the smoke, pistol raised. The bullet takes Morrison in the back, dropping him to his knees. Stupid boy was asking too many questions anyway. Sheriff Hartwell finishes Morrison with a second shot, then turns his attention to Ruby May. His face is streaked with soot and sweat, his uniform torn and dirty. The professional lawman facade has cracked completely, revealing something ugly underneath. Just you and me now, Ruby May. The way it should have been from the beginning. What about your other men? What other men? Ruby May realizes with cold certainty that Sheriff Hartwell has been eliminating his own people, cleaning up loose ends just like he's done for decades. Morrison was never supposed to survive this night, regardless of how the siege ended. You killed your own deputy. I killed a liability. Same thing I'm going to do to you and your sister. Where's Lily? Safe. For now. Ruby May knows her sister is still alive because she hasn't heard any more gunshots from downstream, but Sheriff Hartwell's calm confidence suggests he has some kind of advantage, some ace he hasn't played yet. You can't win this, Floyd. Even if you kill us both, the evidence will surface. People will ask questions. What people? What evidence? All I see here is a mentally unstable woman who burned down her own barn and attacked law enforcement officers trying to help her. The journals, the photographs. Mama documented everything. Your mama was a crazy old woman who saw conspiracies everywhere. Nobody's going to believe her paranoid fantasies. Sheriff Hartwell moves closer, keeping his pistol trained on Ruby May's position. The barn fire is starting to die down, leaving them in deeper darkness. But the smoke still provides some concealment. Besides, there won't be any evidence left after tonight. Amazing how fires can spread in dry conditions like these. Ruby May understands now. Sheriff Hartwell isn't just planning to kill them. He's planning to burn down the house, destroy all of their mother's evidence, make it look like an accidental fire that claimed 2 lives. Another tragedy in a county that's seen too many tragedies. You won't get away with it. I've been getting away with it for 30 years. Why would tonight be any different? Because tonight, you're not hunting scared girls in basement rooms. Tonight, you're hunting women who fight back. The gunshot comes from behind Sheriff Hartwell, the muzzle flash bright in the darkness. He staggers forward, blood spreading across his shirt, then turns to see Lily emerging from the smoke with a rifle in her hands. Hello, Floyd. Miss me? Sheriff Hartwell tries to bring his pistol around, but Lily's second shot takes him center mass, dropping him to his knees. He looks up at her with eyes that hold 20 years of cruelty and no trace of remorse. You should have stayed in the basement where you belonged. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Lily's third shot ends the conversation permanently. The basement smells like fear and decades of secrets. Ruby May descends the wooden steps slowly, rifle trained on Sheriff Hartwell's back as he stumbles ahead of her. Blood seeps through his shirt from Lily's shot, but the wound isn't fatal. Not yet. Keep moving. Ruby May, you don't want to do this. I've wanted to do this for 20 years. I just didn't know it. The basement is larger than she expected, carved out of red clay and reinforced with concrete blocks. Fluorescent lights hang from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows that make everything look like a crime scene, which Ruby May realizes is exactly what this place has been. Sit down. Sheriff Hartwell lowers himself onto a wooden chair, pressing his hand against the bleeding wound in his shoulder. His face is pale with shock and blood loss, but his eyes still hold the calculating intelligence that's kept him in power for 3 decades. You're making a mistake, Ruby May. The only mistake I made was trusting you. I protected you. For 20 years, I kept you safe. You kept me ignorant. There's a difference. Ruby May looks around the basement, taking in details she couldn't see during the fight outside. Metal rings bolted into the concrete walls, chains hanging from the ceiling, a drain in the center of the floor that's been scrubbed clean but still carries the stain of old blood. This is where you kept her. This is where I kept all of them. How many? Does it matter? They're all gone now. It matters to me. Sheriff Hartwell shifts in the chair, wincing as the movement aggravates his wound. 43 over the years, some longer than others. The number hits Ruby May like a physical blow. 43 women and girls who disappeared into this basement, who suffered and died while she lived her life in ignorance just miles away. What happened to them? What do you think happened to them? I want to hear you say it. They served their purpose. Then they were disposed of. Ruby May's finger tightens on the rifle trigger. And Lily. Lily was special. She had value beyond the usual arrangements. What kind of value? Leverage. Your mama saw something she shouldn't have seen. Lily became insurance that she'd keep quiet about it. Ruby May thinks about her mother's weekly trips to town, the haunted look in her eyes that never quite went away. You tortured my sister to control my mother. I provided your mother with a choice. Keep quiet and see her daughter once a week. Talk to the wrong people and lose her forever. That's not a choice. That's extortion. That's politics. Everything's a trade-off, Ruby May. Your mother understood that better than you think. Sheriff Hartwell's voice carries a tone of satisfaction that makes Ruby May's skin crawl. He's proud of what he did, proud of the system he built and maintained for decades. Tell me about the night Mama found out. She was working late at the diner, cleaning up after some truckers who'd made a mess. We were moving a girl through town, using the back alley behind the courthouse. Standard procedure. What happened? Your mama was in the wrong place at the wrong time, saw us loading the girl into the transport vehicle, started screaming, making noise, threatening to call the state police. Ruby May can picture it perfectly. Her mother, always protective of anyone who seemed vulnerable, witnessing something that shattered her faith in everything she believed about justice and law enforcement. So you decided to silence her. I decided to make a deal with her. Better for everyone involved. Better for who? Better for you. You think you would have survived if your mama had gone to the authorities? You think they would have let the whole family live after she started talking? Who are they? Men with more power than you can imagine. Men who've been running things in this county longer than you've been alive. Ruby May feels the scope of the conspiracy settling around her like a weight. This isn't just about Sheriff Hartwell. It's about a network of corruption that reaches into every level of government, every institution that's supposed to protect people. The governor. The governor's just one piece. There are judges, senators, businessmen, federal agents, all connected, all invested in keeping things quiet. And you're their enforcer. I'm their problem solver. Someone needs to die, I make it happen. Someone needs to disappear, I make the arrangements. Someone asks too many questions, I find ways to discourage their curiosity. Sheriff Hartwell coughs, blood speckling his lips. The wound is worse than Ruby May thought, but he's still talking, still trying to justify decades of evil. Your mama begged me, said she'd do anything. So you took everything. I took what I needed to keep order. Your order ends tonight. Does it? You kill me. What changes? The network's still there. The demand's still there. Someone else will take my place, and the whole thing starts over. Ruby May knows he's right. Killing Sheriff Hartwell won't end the trafficking network, won't bring back the 43 women who died in this basement, won't undo 20 years of her sister's suffering? Maybe. But you won't be around to see it. And then what? You think you can just walk away from this? You think they'll let you live after what you've done tonight? I'm not planning to walk away. What are you planning? I'm planning to burn it all down. Sheriff Hartwell laughs, a sound like gravel grinding in his throat. You're one woman with a rifle, Ruby May. They're an organization with unlimited resources. You can't win. Maybe not. But I can make them pay for every victory. Like your mama did. The question stops Ruby May cold. What's that supposed to mean? You think she just accepted the situation? You think she spent 20 years visiting Lily without trying to find another way? What other way? She tried everything, called the FBI, wrote letters to senators, contacted newspaper reporters. Every time she got close to someone who might help, that person would suddenly lose interest or have an accident. Ruby May feels something cold settle in her chest. What kind of accidents? The permanent kind. Your mama got 17 people killed over the years, Ruby May. 17 good people who tried to help her and died for their trouble. You're lying. I'm telling you the truth. The same truth your mama lived with every day for 20 years. Every person she trusted, every authority she contacted, every journalist who showed interest in her story. Dead. Ruby May's hands shake on the rifle. She thinks about her mother's final months, the way she seemed to be carrying an unbearable weight, the way she looked at Ruby May like she was seeing a ghost. She died knowing she'd killed 17 innocent people trying to save one. Stop it. She died knowing that her choices got more people killed than they saved. Stop. She died knowing that the best thing she could do for everyone was die and take her secrets with her. The basement falls silent except for the sound of Sheriff Hartwell's labored breathing and the distant crackle of the barn fire still burning outside. Ruby May stares at this man who spent decades destroying lives, who's trying to poison her last memories of her mother. You want to know what your mama's final words were? No. She called my name, right before the heart attack took her, called out for the man who'd been her tormentor for 20 years. Why would she do that? Because she wanted to make sure I'd keep my promise. Make sure I'd keep Lily alive until you were strong enough to handle the truth. Ruby May feels the world shifting around her, understanding dawning like a cold sunrise. She planned this. She planned all of it. Her death, Lily's escape, your confrontation with me tonight. She spent her final months setting up a chess game that would end with you standing in this basement, holding that rifle. That's impossible, is it? Who do you think loosened Lily's restraints? Who do you think made sure she knew about the evidence in the root cellar? Who do you think arranged for me to find her tied to your fence this morning? Ruby May's mind reels as the pieces fall into place. Her mother's death wasn't random. It was the final move in a game that started 20 years ago. A sacrifice that would give her daughters the chance she never had. She died to give us this moment. She died to give you a choice. The same choice she never had. What choice? Kill me and become like me. Or find another way and become something better. The sound of footsteps on the basement stairs interrupts them. Ruby May turns to see Lily descending into the harsh fluorescent light, pistol in her hand, eyes fixed on Sheriff Hartwell with 20 years of accumulated hatred. Hello, Floyd. Hello, Lily. Come to finish what you started? Come to finish what Mama started. Lily moves to stand beside Ruby May, and together they look down at the man who's destroyed so many lives, who's held their family hostage for 2 decades, who represents everything wrong with a system that protects predators and abandons victims. So what's it going to be, ladies? Justice or revenge? Ruby May looks at her sister, sees her own rage reflected in Lily's eyes. They could kill him now, end this chapter of their lives with blood and violence, or they could find another way. Honor their mother's sacrifice by choosing something better than the cycle of death that's defined this county for generations. Your choice, Ruby May, but choose fast. I can hear sirens in the distance. The sound is faint, but growing stronger. Someone called for backup, probably before Sheriff Hartwell came to the ranch. They have minutes, maybe less, before this basement fills with more corrupt law enforcement officers. What do you want to do, Lily? I want to make him pay. Killing him won't make him pay. It'll just make us like him. Then what will make him pay? Ruby May looks around the basement one more time, taking in the evidence of decades of crimes. The chains, the bloodstains, the drain that's seen too much death. Then she looks at Sheriff Hartwell, bleeding and defiant, still confident that his network will protect him even now. The truth will make him pay. The truth. All of it. Every name, every crime, every connection. We make sure the whole network burns. And if we don't survive to see it, then we make sure someone else will. The sirens are louder now, maybe 2 miles away. Ruby May makes her decision, knowing it might be the last decision she ever makes. Get the evidence from upstairs. All of it. What about him? Ruby May looks down at Sheriff Hartwell, who's watching them with growing alarm as he realizes they're not going to kill him quickly and quietly. He's going to tell us everything he knows, every name, every location, every dirty secret he's been keeping. And if he won't talk, Ruby May smiles, feeling her mother's steel in her spine. He'll talk. Dawn breaks cold and gray over the ranch, painting the sky the color of old bones. Ruby May leans on the shovel handle, sweat mixing with dirt on her face despite the morning chill. The hole is deep enough now, deeper than Sheriff Hartwell and his men deserve, but deep enough to keep the scavengers away. That's the last one. Lily wipes her hands on her jeans, leaving streaks of red clay that look like old bloodstains. They've been digging since before sunrise, working in silence while the barn's ashes still smolder in the distance. 5 graves. Same number of women who disappeared last year alone. Ruby May looks down at Sheriff Hartwell's body, wrapped in a tarp that once covered hay bales. His face is peaceful in death, unmarked by the violence he inflicted on others for 30 years. It seems wrong somehow, too easy. Think anyone will miss them? The wrong people will, the right people won't. They roll the body into the grave, listening to it hit the bottom with a dull thud. Ruby May begins shoveling dirt, covering the man who destroyed her family with the same red clay that's fed her cattle for generations. How do you feel? Lily doesn't answer right away. She's been quiet since they dragged the bodies from around the property, since they decided what needed to be done. 20 years of captivity doesn't prepare someone for the weight of freedom, even freedom bought with blood. Empty. Empty how? I thought killing him would feel like something, like justice or revenge or closure, but it just feels empty. Ruby May understands. She felt the same way when her rifle took down Sheriff Hartwell's men. When she realized she was capable of killing to protect what mattered, the violence came easier than expected, and that knowledge sits heavy in her chest. Mama always said violence doesn't heal anything. It just stops the bleeding long enough to find a better way. Did we find a better way? We found the only way. They work in silence, filling the grave until the ground is level and unremarkable. Just another patch of earth in a county full of unmarked graves, full of secrets buried deep enough to stay hidden. What do we do now? Ruby May looks toward the house, where their mother's evidence still sits spread across the kitchen table. 20 years of documentation, enough to bring down the entire network if it reaches the right people. But getting it to the right people means trusting a system that's already failed them once. We do what Mama couldn't. What's that? We live. The words hang in the morning air like a promise. Not just survival, but something more. The chance to build something new from the ashes of everything that came before. The evidence? We make copies, hide them in different places, make sure the story gets told, but on our terms. What terms? We don't trust law enforcement. We don't trust politicians. We don't trust anyone who benefits from keeping things quiet. Ruby May thinks about the journalists who died trying to help their mother, about the FBI agents who suddenly lost interest in pursuing leads. The system is too corrupt to fix from within, but it might be vulnerable to attack from outside. Social media, independent journalists, people who don't have anything to lose by telling the truth. You think it'll work? I think it's better than doing nothing. Lily picks up the second shovel, starts walking toward the next grave. Her movements are still careful, controlled, like someone who spent 20 years learning to hide pain. But there's something new in her posture now. Something that looks like hope. I don't know how to be free. What do you mean? For 20 years, every decision was made for me. When to eat, when to sleep, when to speak. I don't know how to choose things for myself anymore. Ruby May stops digging, looks at her sister across the grave. Lily seems younger in the morning light, more fragile, like the girl who disappeared 2 decades ago. But her eyes hold knowledge no 17-year-old should have, wisdom bought with suffering. You chose to escape. You chose to come find me. You chose to fight back. Those weren't really choices. Those were survival. All choices are survival. The question is what kind of life you're trying to survive into. They fill the second grave, then the third. The work goes faster now, their rhythms synchronized by shared purpose. By the time the sun is fully up, 5 unmarked graves dot the field behind the house. We should go. Where? Away from here. This place is poisoned now. Too many ghosts. Too much history. Ruby May looks around the ranch that's been her family's home for 3 generations, the house where she was born, where her mother died keeping secrets, where she learned that everything she believed about justice was a lie. You're right. You're not sad to leave. I'm sad to leave what I thought this place was, but what it actually was. No, I'm not sad to leave that behind. They walk back toward the house, carrying shovels that smell like death and earth. Ruby May's rifle leans against the porch rail where she left it, and she picks it up without thinking. Old habits, learned too recently to forget. What about the network, the other men involved? They'll come looking eventually, when Sheriff Hartwell doesn't report in, when their operation starts falling apart. And they'll find empty graves and a burned barn and no answers. Just like the families of all those missing women. Lily smiles at that, the first genuine smile Ruby May has seen from her. It transforms her face, makes her look more like the girl Ruby May remembers from childhood photographs. Poetic justice. Mama would have liked that. They gathered the evidence from the kitchen table, packing it carefully into boxes that once held preserves from their mother's garden. The journals go in first, then the photographs, then the letters that document decades of systematic evil. Where do we take it? I know a reporter in the state capitol. Independent, doesn't owe anyone favors. She's been investigating missing women cases for years. You trust her. I don't trust anyone, but I trust her motivations. Ruby May takes one last look around the kitchen where she spent her childhood, where her mother kept secrets that killed her slowly over 20 years. The morning light streams through windows that have seen too much sorrow, illuminating dust motes that dance like tiny ghosts. Ready? Lily nods, shouldering her pack with movements that are getting stronger, more confident. Freedom is a muscle that needs exercise, and she's learning to use it. They walk out of the house together, leaving the door unlocked behind them. Let whoever comes looking find nothing but empty rooms and old memories. Let them wonder what happened to Sheriff Hartwell and his men. Let them fear that their carefully constructed system is crumbling. The truck starts on the first try, engine turning over with a sound like hope. Ruby May puts it in drive, feeling the weight of their mother's evidence in the back seat, feeling the weight of possibility settling around them like morning mist. Where to? Forward. That's not a place. It's the only place that matters. They drive down the long driveway, past the fence where Ruby May found Lily tied and bleeding just 24 hours ago, past the field where 5 men lie buried in unmarked graves, past the smoldering remains of the barn that once sheltered 3 generations of Caldwell livestock. In the rearview mirror, Ruby May watches the ranch disappear behind a hill, taking with it everything she thought she knew about her life, her family, her place in the world. But ahead of them lies something new. Something uncertain but self-determined. What do you think happens next? I think we find out who we are when no one's telling us who to be. And if we don't like what we find, then we change it. The truck rolls down the county road, carrying 2 women who have nothing left to lose and everything left to gain. Behind them, the sun climbs higher, burning away the morning mist and revealing a landscape that looks exactly the same, but feels completely different. They drive toward an uncertain future, carrying their mother's legacy and their own hard-won freedom into whatever comes next.